The next part of the WMO report, United in Science, is on climate change and cities. Cities are, of course, clusters of innovative ecosystems and employment opportunities, and of course great social life if you're into enjoying what cities have to offer in terms of art, music, restaurants, bars, and so on and so forth. So the key messages from the Urban Climate Change Research Network and the WMO report here is that cities, home to 55% of the global population, or 4.2 billion people, are responsible for up to 70% of human-caused emissions and are also highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. The dense populations increase the exposure and hence the vulnerability to natural climate hazards. Climate change in cities will lead to increased rates of heavy precipitation, accelerated sea level rise, exacerbated acute and chronic coastal flooding, drought, higher than average annual temperatures, and extreme heat events, which will exacerbate socioeconomic challenges and inequalities. Okay, cities have an important role in addressing climate change by implementing inclusive, urgent, and scaled-up mitigation action and increasing the adaptive capacity of billions of urban inhabitants in ways that contribute to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and benefit rural communities. Okay, so cities do play an important role in addressing climate change if they become inclusive, urgent, and scale up the mitigation action and increase adaptive capacity for billions of urban inhabitants. This urbanization is expected to continue, and urban populations are expected to continue, especially coastal communities and coastal populations. So looking here at the baseline period and the 2050s projections of extreme heat, these are cities with populations of 100,000 and greater in the 2000s. So here we are, and estimated urban populations in 2050s in the bottom. Data sources for baseline population in 2000s from Natural Earth dataset. Data source for population in the 2050s estimated from Global Urban Mapping Project population growth estimates applied to the baseline population data in 2000s. So Global Rural Urban Mapping Project provides some estimates which have been applied to this baseline. Okay, so exposure to extreme heat, urban populations, you can see the centers here, Mexico City, I think this must be Rio, and maybe Buenos Aires should be whatever it is. So Mumbai here, maybe one of the Pakistani cities here, maybe Beijing or one of the big cities. So you can see that the number of cities with greater than 10 million people is going to increase in the 2050s. I should say that the population projections can be uncertain, especially because many of the countries are already in below replacement rate. Each couple has to have 2.1 kids or so to make sure that death of a child doesn't reduce population. So many countries are already, women are not having children, or they're having fewer children, one instead of two or three, and educating women always ends up leading to fewer children per couple, and fertility rates have been dropping for decades as well. Keeping all that in mind, it's worth keeping that extreme heat is going to be an issue anyways, because it's clear that number of cities and urban population is going to grow, even if overall population may not grow. This is an example: New York City Climate Change Resilience Indicators and Monitoring System, NICLIM, will track, I don't know how they say it, will track 4 types of indicators from data collection agencies, processing centers, urban decision makers, and others, as well as policies, projects, and programs. The proposed EnviClimb system is co-generated by scientists, practitioners, and local communities to determine the most useful indicators for planning and preparing for climate change in New York City. This is from Cynthia Rosenzweig's paper. So climate impacts, vulnerability, and resilience as indicators, local communities with regional monitoring partnerships, citizen science, participatory decision making, and stakeholder involvement. Co-developed decisions and tools tend to work much better, already known. Data collection agencies are involved, New York City processing centers, urban decision makers, and policies, projects, and programs. Okay, so here again looking at cities and regions pledging net zero emission targets. So you can see there's a fairly large number of cities which are doing this. Of course, you can compare to this map to see that what is the percentage of cities that have actually committed. But that's not the point. The point would still be how many will get there and how many are on track, how many have real strategies to get there, and so on. Excuse me, I have a phone call. Maybe not. Okay, phone rang and stopped. Never mind. NA refers to countries with no record of net zero emissions. So this is not just cities but also regions. So percentage of national population that is involved in these places shows of urban centers less than 1%, 1 to 5%, 5 to 15, and so on. And these are cities and these are regions. So you can see the circles are the cities and triangles are regions. It's not as clear as I had hoped, but you can see that almost all of Japan, Korea, and so on are covered up here in terms of net zero regions. Same for Europe. US goes basically coastal regions are much more climate aware, climate friendly, not climate deniers, but their politics plays out regionally here, as is clear. And then South America, you can see, has a kind of a distribution that is also understandable in terms of what people believe in and so on. Coming to the IPCC headline statements, cities intensify human-induced warming locally, and further urbanization together with the more frequent hot extremes will increase the severity of heat waves. This we can say with very high confidence according to Working Group 1 of AR6 reports. Urbanization also increases mean and heavy precipitation over and or downward of cities, which we can say with medium confidence, and resulting runoff intensity also increases, which we can say with high confidence. In coastal cities, the combination of more frequent extreme sea level events due to sea level rise and storm surge, so a smaller sea level rise can still create havoc by sweeping in much more water. And extreme rainfall, river flow events will make flooding more probable. You can say this with high confidence. Interactions between changing urban form, exposure and vulnerability can create climate change induced risks and losses. I lost the pointer there. Risks and losses for cities and settlements. However, the global trend of urbanization also offers a critical opportunity in the near term to advance climate resilient development, which we can say with high confidence under IPCC R6. Urban areas can create opportunities to increase resource efficiency and significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions through the systemic transition of infrastructure and urban form through low emission development pathways towards net zero emissions. So keeping in mind that urban ecosystems do offer opportunities, innovations, people compare population densities with number of patents and so on, and one can argue that cities play a critical role in economic development and technology development and so on. But we have to keep these in mind in the context of climate change as well. We'll come back and look at extreme weather events and socioeconomic impacts, and maybe that will be the last piece, maybe. Okay, we'll see.